This is a big moment, because if this works, I'm going to get to drive this car and we're going to drive into Europe, which is what I've wanted to do the whole time since owning this car. Driving this into Europe is going to be a dream.
A $6 million hypercar. Destroyed. A $1 billion company. Refusing to help. And 2 YouTubers who said, watch us. This is a story of how Matt Armstrong and Alex just beat Bugatti at their own game. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a car build. It's a war. A 2-year war between a man and a shed and one of the most powerful automakers on Earth. And for a long time, it looked like Bugatti was going to win. Let's rewind. Because to understand just how massive this win is, you need to understand how impossible it once seemed. Deep in a Miami salvage yard sat a Bugatti Chiron Sport, one of only 60 ever built, owned by content creator Alex Gonzalez. And it was in pieces. The front end was crumpled. The airbags had deployed. The carbon fiber was cracked wide open. This wasn't a fender bender. This was catastrophic. Bugatti flew a technician in from France just to look at it. And his verdict? Total loss. Write it off. Walk away. But here's what nobody expected. Matt Armstrong, the British YouTuber who's built an entire career resurrecting cars everyone else gave up on, heard about this wreck. And instead of walking away, he booked a flight. He knew what he was walking into. He'd rebuilt Lamborghinis, BMWs, even his own wrecked Bugatti Veyron. But this was different. This was the rarest hypercar on the planet, and the company that built it had already decided its fate. And then it happened, the moment that turned this from a car build into a full-blown battle. Bugatti locked the VIN. Let that sink in. Every single dealership on Earth was suddenly blocked from selling parts for this car. No headlights, no wings, no horseshoe grill, nothing. Bugatti had essentially blacklisted the vehicle, and by extension, blacklisted Armstrong. The message was clear. Fix this car without us, and you're on your own. Now here's the part that got the entire automotive world talking. Bugatti CEO, Mate Rimac, didn't stay quiet. He went public. He said the costs being thrown around online were exaggerated. He pushed back on rumors that Armstrong might 3D print parts. And in a move that felt almost like a dare, he told Armstrong he was welcome to bring the car to Bugatti's own factory in Molsheim, France, for factory repair. But here's what nobody knew at the time. That factory repair offer? It came with a price tag that could buy an entirely different Chiron. Reports pegged the first quote at $1.7 million. Then it dropped to $600,000. Still refused, because Alex Gonzalez made a choice. A private rebuild. Away from Bugatti's control, away from Bugatti's price tag. And that decision, it set off a firestorm that would follow Matt Armstrong for the next 2 years. So picture this. A stripped-down, $6 million hypercar, sitting in pieces, in a private workshop, with a manufacturer refusing to lift a finger. No official parts, no factory support, no blueprints, just Matt Armstrong. A small team, and a car that Bugatti had essentially declared dead. Most people would have quit right there. But Armstrong doesn't quit. He gets creative. And what he did next? It shouldn't have worked. First problem, the airbags. Completely destroyed. Bugatti wouldn't sell replacements. So Armstrong's team went hunting. And what they found was almost unbelievable. Airbags from an Audi A3. Fully compatible. A supercar worth more than most houses, being kept alive with parts from a compact hatchback. It sounds insane. It worked. Then came the radiators. And this is where the scale of this build gets almost absurd. The Chiron doesn't have one radiator. It doesn't have 2. It has 10. 10 radiators, all custom built from scratch, because Bugatti wasn't selling replacements for those either. Most garages in the world couldn't even attempt this. Armstrong's team did it anyway. But the real problem, the one that almost broke the entire build, was buried deep in the drivetrain. A fail bracket between the engine and the gearbox. Without it, this car goes nowhere. And Bugatti wasn't selling that either. So Armstrong's team did something that should have taken a factory full of engineers. They 3D scanned a damaged mount, converted it into a CAD model, and CNC machined a brand new one, better than the original. Now here's the twist nobody saw coming. Rumors started swirling that Armstrong might 3D print entire structural parts for a hypercar. And that's when Bugatti CEO stepped back into the story. this time publicly shutting the idea down, insisting the car's integrity couldn't be guaranteed that way. It was a warning, a very public one, and it left Armstrong facing a question millions of viewers were asking in the comments. Was his hypercar ever going to run again? Or was Bugatti right all along? Months went by. Setback after setback. Viewers started spotting hairline cracks in footage of the rebuild and flooding the comments with warnings. Every update brought a new problem. Every problem brought new doubt. And the online debate got louder. Half the internet said Armstrong was a hero, standing up for the right to repair. The other half said he was reckless, risking his reputation in a car that could kill someone if it failed at speed. And then, after everything, after months of dead ends and viewer skepticism and a manufacturer actively working against him, Matt Armstrong's team did something almost nobody believed was possible. They turned the key, and the Bugatti Chiron Sport, declared dead by the company that built it, fired up. But firing up an engine and driving a $6 million hypercar down the road? Two very different things. Because this is where the story could have ended in disaster. One mistake, one overlooked system, and this entire 2-year saga collapses into a headline nobody wants to read. So the team methodically checked everything. The coolant systems, the fuel lines, the ECU, every single one of those 10 radiators. And then, months after Bugatti said it couldn't be done, Matt Armstrong took the Chiron Sport out for its first test drive. No dealership support, no factory blueprints, no official parts, just stubbornness, skill, and a team that refused to accept impossible as an answer. But Armstrong wasn't done, because there was one more move left to make, the boldest one yet. He didn't just fix the car and disappear. He drove straight back to Bugatti, to Molsheim, France, where this entire nightmare started. Think about the audacity of that. Bugatti told him it couldn't be done. Bugatti locked the parts. Bugatti's own CEO went public against him. And Armstrong showed up at their front door, in the car they said would never run again. What happened at that meeting became one of the most talked about moments in the entire saga. Because Armstrong didn't get thrown out. He got acknowledged, sat down face to face with people from inside Bugatti itself, including a contact who'd been part of the earlier back and forth. And in that moment, after 2 years of being told impossible, the tone changed. Now here's what makes this the win everyone's talking about. This was never really about one car. It was about a bigger question, one the entire automotive world has been arguing over for years. Do you, the owner, actually own your car? Or does the manufacturer still control it, long after you paid for it, long after it's totaled, long after they've walked away? Bugatti built a wall, locked the VIN, blocked parts across their entire dealer network. And Matt Armstrong, with a small team, a lot of stubbornness, and parts scavenged from everywhere, including an Audi hatchback, tore that wall down anyway. And here's the part that should give you chills. This story didn't just stay inside the car community. Publications everywhere picked it up. The debate spilled into podcasts, comment sections, forums Armstrong had never even posted in. People who don't even follow cars were suddenly arguing about VIN locks and right to repair laws because of this build. A single wreck Bugatti turned into a global conversation about who really controls the machines we buy. So where does that leave things now? Bugatti's tone has shifted. The doors that were locked for 2 years have started to open, just slightly. But make no mistake, this fight isn't fully over. There are still questions about whether Bugatti will ever fully acknowledge what Armstrong pulled off. Still tension in the comments between people calling him a hero of the right to repair movement and people who think he took on a risk that wasn't his to take. But one thing is undeniable. A car that was pronounced dead is alive. A war that was supposed to be unwinnable got won. If this story hit you the way it hit me, you know exactly what to do. Smash that like button right now. It genuinely tells the algorithm to push this story to more people who need to see it. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think Matt Armstrong was right to fight this battle? Or do you think Bugatti had a point? I read every single one. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this saga is far from over, and you do not want to miss what happens next.